Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you. Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 31. We're here to celebrate the conclusion of the first arc of Rook Exodus by deep diving into issue number 6. I'm Nick. And as usual, I'm joined by my better half, Snoggle. Snoggle, how do you fare on this fine evening?
I'm doing well. A little exhausted. Work has been a little much lately. But one of the fun things that you and I get to do together is kind of forget about that and immerse ourselves in our Ghost Machine universe. So I'm in a great mood. How are you?
I'm doing great as well because we get to do this, and I would say that I definitely agree with you, and I would ask any Ghost Machine fans out there that if you would like to tell us, what reading comic books does for you, then shoot us an email at ghostmachinefans@gmail.com. We'd like to hear about that. We also did want to address the elephant in the room, which is that we are behind on Redcoat at the moment. And that is because we have discovered that the only appropriate way in which to speak about Redcoat is with the aid of a Canadian citizen. And our usual guest co-host, Michael Schwartz, won't be able to make it with us until next week. So we're going to be doing 2 Redcoat episodes in a row to catch up, which is pretty exciting. So we are going to be continuing our journey into the world of Redcoat with Michael's assistance. We also did want to give him a little shout out before the big shout out, which is for somebody else. And that's for his book, Armored number 3. That one in particular has some cool testimonials from Ghost Machine creators in it, which is pretty neat. And so if you haven't checked that book out, I think the only way to get it now, because it's sold out from like an ordering standpoint, is to get it in a comic book shop. So talk to your local comic book shop about Michael Schwartz's Armored number 3 from Clover Press. It's really sweet. And he'll be back with us next week.
Yes.
For Redcoat.
We pushed back that Redcoat episode a couple of times, so we know that you guys are just as excited as we are to cover Redcoat number 6.
Mm-hmm.
But alas, today it's Rook number 6.
It is Rook number 6. And we do have a shout out, but we've reversed the roles this time.
A shout out. We have a big shout out to Jim Allegro, who is putting together Ghost Machine subreddit, which we're assisting and moderating. And by we mean Nick. Jim is also going to jump in and contribute to the wiki, which is super appreciated.
Yeah, it's really neat. He reached out to us and let us know that he was going to be doing that and he wanted to post about it on some of the things. And I'm one of those people who's like Googled a thing and then I see it's on Reddit and I read what other people said, but I never make a Reddit and I never like log into Reddit. So now I've done that. Ghost Machine Fans has a Reddit, and also Jim is making a subreddit, which is called Ghost Machine Comics. So you can find the Reddit that Jim made under that, and we're going to be in there posting all of our usual stuff as well.
Very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And now, oh my gosh, I'm not in the newsroom?
You're not. Get on out of here. It's time for the news. So we have a couple of different exciting things going on right now. To go along with the theme of the episode, we have seen the preview for Rook number 7. It's not going to come out until 2025, as we knew there were going to be breaks in the arcs, but it looks super sweet. It has this awesome blue cover. The colors are awesome that Brad Anderson did. It looks like it's going to take place in like a northern icy biome, and there's some like, it looks like either a saber-toothed tiger or like a polar bear or something like that in the background. So
White fox.
Could be that. Maybe it's... They did say that some of the animals became enlarged by the science or whatever, so perhaps it is just a mega Arctic fox.
Or is it the Penguin Warden?
The Penguin Warden?
Yeah.
You'll rue the day that you spoke ill of the Penguin Warden.
Yes. 2025, though. Oof.
Well, no, we knew that.
I know, like, it's just, it feels like 2024 just began. And 2025 is literally not that far away. We've got 2 months.
We do, and that's because this episode airs on October 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Wednesday, as usual, which is a week out from when Rook 6 came out.
And that's when Devourer is in stores, right?
It is, and that's the other part of the news. What that's called, ladies and gentlemen, is the newsroom getting hijacked. So, tell us. Go ahead. What comes out today?
Devourer in stores. I am so excited about this book, and hopefully you can snag a copy if you didn't pre-order one. But it comes out today, and just in time for Halloween.
Yes.
Spooky.
Yep. And as you recall, that's one of those, it happened on A Tale from Hyde Street type of deal, which Yvonne told us is going to be the perspective of the victim. Ooh. So, excited to read that one. Also coming out today is Redcoat number 7. So it's a big week for Ghost Machine, and that's also why we said we knew another Redcoat was coming out, so we're going to have to play catch up when Mike is back.
Yeah.
And another important thing, get your pens out. Make a note on your flip chart, whatever you do back home.
Get your Rolodex.
Yeah, I remember the Rolodex. And you want to pull out something. Make a note of the fact that the final order cutoff date for Hornsby and Halo by Peter Snibier, John Kalish, and Peter Tomasi is November 4th. So that's less than a week from today. And the one other piece of news, super duper 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 important, is that right now, as you listen to this podcast on October 30th, we are currently running a Halloween giveaway raffle on the Instagram. If you haven't been to our Instagram, it is Ghost Machine Fans. That's all you got to type in to find us. It's super easy to do that. We are giving away 2, not 1, but 2 copies of the Jordan Noir Jams Fortress Comics Hyde Street #1 retailer exclusive variant. So they were kind enough, Jams Fortress Comics was kind enough to send us some of the books. So when that happens, we want to give them back out to you. So a shout out to those wonderful folks for doing that as well. But you can enter the raffle by 11 p.m. on Friday evening. So that's Friday, November 1st by 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go on the Instagram, look at how to do it on there. We won't tell you how to do it on here. You got to go on there and read the instructions. But you'll be able to win 1 copy. So we're doing 2 winners, 2 books, 1 copy for you.
You're looking at me. It's just time zones confuse me.
Well, we always do Pacific, so they have the max.
Oh, it makes sense.
The most. So if anybody gets confused,
I think absolutely.
They can always err on the side of that.
I think maybe it's because we live in Eastern Standard Time, but I feel like TV kind of runs off of EST.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I felt that way even when I lived in a central time zone, because back in the day, it would always be like such and such Eastern Standard Time / Central. And it was like, well, why is Central after if it comes before in the country? All right. Well, we have a book to talk about today.
We do.
And what do we do before we talk about every one of these fine products?
Well, we play the spoiler pause sound.
Oh, that was a good one for Rook.
That was a good one.
Yeah. And
then y'all know the drill. Well, actually, if this is your first time listening, welcome to episode 31. We're having fun. But we always do a spoiler pause because what Nick and I consistently do is talk about every single little thing in this comic book. So if you want to enjoy it for the first time before hearing us deep dive into it, which we highly suggest, then you need to pause, and we will be here waiting for you. Drive safely to your local comic book store and go purchase that comic book and support your local
comic book shop.
Correct. While you're at your comic book store, you can just set up your pick list. That way, you never have to pause, ever.
Yeah, as long as you go pick your books up and read them in time for the episode. You gotta stay on it. And so what's cool, though, is we're going to talk about the covers. So if you want, we'll tell you about the covers, and you can pick which one, or more importantly, you can reflect upon which one you chose. So we have 3 covers, which
Trace
has not been typical, right? For this series, it's been 3, but not 3 different illustrations, typically. We've usually seen 2 by Fabok, and then the second one would have a 1 in 50 with a profile foil, right? In this case, we have no profile cover. We have the first A cover, which is an Ursa versus Rook cover, a B cover that is Direwolf and like a cool vehicle, and a C cover, which is by Viken Marion, and it's a connecting cover. So if you remember how we've talked about some of the other covers Viken Marion guy did? Well, all 3 of those, if you put them next to each other between Geiger, Rook, and...
Make a picture.
Oh my gosh. You knew what I was going to say. That is exactly what it is. I do want to say about the A cover. Myself, if I didn't feel the need to make our child the wallpaper on my phone at all times, then that cover would be my wallpaper. Ursa versus Rook is this is my favorite cover or any piece of art from this series that Jason has done so far. I love that fight scene. What did you think of the Direwolf one?
I really liked it. I liked covers. I mean, first of all, to be clear, I liked all 3 covers. I do like cover C the best. I don't know if it's just because it's a different, background color and all of that from the other 2. It just gives a different vibe. But I think they're all very sweet.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, we've talked about this when we mentioned one of these other variant covers. The colorist is Steve Olaf. So that color that you're noticing, the vibe, that is a different colorist. So that's cool that you noticed that. But it's a different style overall.
Look at me, guys. Yeah. Getting good at this.
There you go. But it's really neat. Like, the whole style is different. The wolves look different. The crows look different. And it's nice to have some variety in there. I really liked all of them. I just really loved that Rook versus Ursa cover.
I mean, it's fantastic art. We are fortunate to be a part of a community that these artists are just fantastic. Everyone they bring onto the team, it's like, chef's kiss.
Yep, for sure. And so since we're talking about the creators, why don't you give us our creator roll call?
Well, we have, of course, the book is led up by Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok. And our colorist is Brad Anderson. We've got our King of Letters, Rob Lee. And that is the Dream Team on...
So it is the usual suspects. And we do need to do a little bit of a review and catch you up to speed, because we're talking about so many different universes and worlds now that it's hard to keep track. So... Rook Exodus last we met in issue 5. He had fallen off the thing. He had fallen off the waterfall, and he had the vision where he spoke to Pumbaa about that. And then it seemed as though he had gained both a connection with his drift of crows, ravens, and rooks above and beyond what he had before, and also seemed to have an actual realization about what that connection meant, and his mindset shifted about wanting to now protect this planet as opposed to destroy it the way that quote-unquote Earth was.
Yeah, he connected with his animals.
He did.
Which we'll see in length later on in this book. But yeah, I do really enjoy this book as a follow-up from the last one. I mean, I think the last one just showed his journey of becoming grumpy old Rook to, yes, I am one with the crows now.
Absolutely. I like how this issue starts out with a little bit of world building. It's 2 members of, 2 of the bad guys, for all intents and purposes. And they're talking about how they liked it better when the weather was scheduled and you could plan out what days it was going to be sunny and not. they think that the reason that there's rain now is not because of these weathermen that used to control it, but because the world engine is falling apart and the planet's falling apart with it. So all this crazy stuff is happening. Because as you recall, Ghost Machine fans, this planet in the Kepler system, planet F, became quote-unquote better world after it was terraformed by the Better World Corporation or whatever. It became planet Exodus after being terraformed by the Better World Corporation.
Do you feel like in comic books, in movies, when something is titled, when it's a corporation or a company that's better, good, they're not.
Yeah.
It is always the opposite.
Yeah, for sure. It makes me think of Gattaca or any number of commercials in
or in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs too.
What's the name of that? Better Food?
The Better Bar or something.
Oh, okay.
And he's just trying to kill all those cute little animals made out of fruit.
I really like the little way that they make a segue into, can Rook fly or not? Because of the whole thing with his connection to his birds. Because these two bad guys are running around and they see something coming at them on their radar. And the one guy's like, oh, it's Rook. He's coming right for us. And then the other guy's like, Rook can't fly. But then you just see Rook's super ATV Jeep deal fly over them, and this is after we just got done reading an issue where it seemed like the crows helped him not, as he was going over the precipice of the thing. But it's also another sweet double page.
Oh, I mean, it's excellent. One, I'm going to talk about this. What do we call these? Splash pages?
Mm-hmm.
But I do love how they're we're going to get him. Just, it's really cool. Then he just comes flying over them. Ugh, I love it. The lightning in the background looks just like it's actually alive. The crows coming too. I can almost in my brain hear them.
So after he lands this super buggy, he starts to have an inner monologue, which clarifies a detail for us, which I thought was great. Because he says, back on Earth, I was a farmer like my father before me. And then he says, my dad died saving our animals from the fire that destroyed our farm. So if you recall, in the last issue, there was some back and forth where he had some doubt as to what had really happened. He thought that his father had set the fire and that maybe his father wasn't the man that he thought he was. Mm-hmm. And then later we had a glimpse of his father releasing the animals. And it wasn't abundantly clear if they were saying he did something of the right mind or he was there or, how did he die? And so regardless, what matters to me is understanding what Rook's perspective is on it. So Rook's final perspective on it is that his dad died to save the animals. And so now he, quote, in this issue says, I'm out to save the animals from a fire too.
So he's found a better purpose than just selfishly saving himself. Mm-hmm. Which I really like.
I do too.
A couple of the details. First and foremost, the lights on the back of his Forerunner thing. The red peering out. That is so cool to me.
Yeah, that's really neat.
I do really like, obviously, the lightning. It just does a really good job at lightning. And then, obviously, our poor bad guys. They're just trying to find some helmets of their own. That's what they were promised. And they're like, look out.
Yes. And there's more of the nature versus technology vibe, even in the way that it's written. So if you go after they get the bad guys get their vehicle destroyed, he mentions a couple of things. First, he mentions that he does something he's never done before. He thanks the birds for what they're about to go do because they go on to scout ahead. So they're really reinforcing in a subtle way, yep, they're in it to win it together now. They're a team.
Yep.
But what's really neat is the panel that has the Ark. And if you recall, the Ark is Ursa's big forest-crushing vehicle tank thing.
Like in Fern Gully.
Very similar. He says, the Ark leaves a scar across the land, cutting through forests and fields. I feel the flock's pain seeing other birds displaced. So he's using, and the word pain and the word scar, they're both emboldened by Rob. And so they're emphasizing the way that the technology is hurting nature. And it's part of Rook's inner monologue, so that's really important to him. And I love the way that there's this really subtle, before we see this just massive machine gun on Rook's buggy start shooting.
I love how it's showing the character development of him having, like, actual empathy for his animals.
Yeah, I think that's what they're getting at there.
Yeah. But then, of course, he's doing his part, blasting people up.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I love turning that page.
Yeah, I can hear, like, the 80s synthesizers going in the background as all these epic things happen.
Yeah, and the way that the lights are in that first, like, explosion, it's like it's coming towards you. It's so rad.
Yeah, and it looks as though he uses the momentum in stopping abruptly to, like, throw himself out of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. But the way that it's drawn, it kind of looks like he's flying with his flock of crows, but you can tell it's just momentum because then he has to grab a rope to stay up there. So it's clear, no, he can't fly. No, he can't talk to Pumbaa. But, you know, it kind of. And so it kind of works out either way. And he does say, my flock is guiding me, and so is my father. So he's at peace with his animals in the present. Mm-hmm. He's at peace with his father in the past and in his heart. And that's really cool. You know, like, that shows a turn. We wanted more from Rook. We wanted to feel better about this character that looks so awesome. And now we're starting to see the depth. It's kind of like Simon.
Yeah.
You know, so I dig that.
I really like this book because he's got to his destination. Like, he is going to the Ark to get his friends. And then we get this, now we turn the page and we're dealing with the villain. So my soldiers are already in pursuit. Their helmets will be mine.
So we see that Direwolf has been captured by Ursal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he literally has her chained up and he has the wildlife grid in his possession. And we can see that it does give some sort of projection, like a holographic projection, kind of like old school Star Wars. And that indicates where each of the helmets are. Like on that one, you can see the stag, the rat, the locust, Rook, the bunny, the turtle, the
penguin.
The penguin, huh? You hear that, Mr. Fabok? We're looking for a penguin warden. That's all I'm saying. In the water, they're incredible animals. Heck, they travel great distances in great cold.
Oh, you know what would be sweet, though? The leopard seal. Mm. That's a predator right there.
It certainly is.
So, she's captured. And, like, per normal, you're captured. Who are you? Like, because we've all been dying to know. And I do find it funny that he just responds, I am Ursal.
Yeah, and she's like, and that's her big thing. She's like, who are you? What's going on? Why are you doing this? You know, we should all come together and fix this type of thing. And this is where we start to get some questions answered that we had much earlier in the series about what, you know, at one point she said that Ursal killed her father, and that made us think it might have been an Anakin situation where maybe Ursal was her father and she just didn't want anybody to know because she was ashamed, or maybe he would end up being her father. But it is confirmed that is not the case. But also, we were told he was the wild dog warden, and we know that's what they're referring to here. So when Ursal says to her that she lied to everybody about him killing her father, it's opening something else up about her, because she's like, he's not my father anymore. Mm-hmm. And so there's a dynamic there. But it's cool how you get to see them trying to get into Carapus's suit.
Well, the reason he's looking for the wild dog warden is because he's the only man who can fix the engine.
That is a detail that makes me want to know more about him, too, because we had talked about how he seemed to be one of the first ones, because we know that Direwolf trained some of the other ones. And her father obviously was connected on a deeper level. And I feel like it's if her father's the smart guy that invented it or can fix it or can do it or whatever, it makes sense in like a Jeff Johnsian way that the wild dog warden has lost his mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a juxtaposition that I feel, not that I've seen before, but it feels to fit within his style or his realm.
Sometimes villains say things that you're like, okay, that actually holds some really solid logic. The first half of it. I do like when she says he's not my father anymore. He says, no one is who they were before Exodus fell. Like, no, he's basically, none of us are the same person. But then he adds on to it, you're holding on to outdated ethics. Like, okay.
Yeah, he's gross, but we don't, ultimately, he doesn't really answer her as to where he's from or why he's there, but we do get the impression that he was not there initially. He was not the first Bear Warden by any means.
You can tell they cut to what's actually happening to Carapace at that moment. It's not in the same room that these two are together. And he's telling her, pledge your loyalty to me, Direwolf, and I may reconsider cracking open Carapace's shell. He's a crazy mutant man.
He is a crazy mutant man.
I mean, like, she even said, like, he has genetic modifications, so that's fun.
Yeah, and he does say that he is possibly, he says perhaps, that he was affected by the bear's instinct influence and them being territorial. So he does admit that. But then there's this awesome sound of, I would presume, like, the wall getting broken through or blown through, essentially. It's just this sweet. And then we see on the next page, Rook is there shooting what looks like a grapple gun straight into the guy.
Which is dope.
Yeah, it is really cool. And he, right away, Ursa's hubris makes him blind to the circumstances because he's like, you think you can reel me in like a fish? I'm too much for you, Rook.
I loved this line. And then Rook says, that's why the other end isn't attached to me. Like, it's great storytelling.
And, you know, he should be cunning with what we know about Rooks, Ravens, and Crows. He should be clever. Not like a fox clever, but like strategically clever. It makes sense. It's pretty cool when his buggy now pulls away, pulling Ursa the whole time.
Clever.
You know?
Kind of.
And so while he's distracted by being pulled away, it gives Rook a moment to ping Direwolf on the wildlife grid, because as you recall, since the grid is active, they can communicate via that. And then Rook is not messing around. Like, he gets up pursuing him. He didn't just have him get dragged away. Like, he wants to finish this thing.
He's very determined. So he's giving her time to find Carapace. You know, he's like, cool, my chick's good. And it's interesting because, like, if you look at them side by side, it just shows some bravery, because I'd let the car continue to drive him away for a bit.
Oh, yeah. Into an ocean, off a cliff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, maybe his bravery is a testament to the change as well, because he comes up behind him and he's ready to start finishing him, and he just pelts him with his 2 hand machine pistols. And I love the sounds that Rob made of them bouncing off of Ursa's armor. It's really cool. But then the bears come.
But he said, bring me his face, and you can tell he's talking to his bears. And I absolutely love this panel down here. You've just got, like, a little bit of the crows are still hanging out, trying to see if Rook's going to be okay. They're roaring behind. I mean, the colors, the fact that they're farther away in the background, which makes them not as focused.
And their bears are roaring. And Ursa's axe, chainsaw, axe, mace looking deal is smacking the ground. And it's just a battle for the ages. But then we do actually see Direwolf making her way. She has a whole page of what she's doing. She makes it to the people that are trying to cut into Carapace, and obviously dispatches them. So we know that he's still in play, which is cool because I really dig the Turtle Warden.
There's some comedy to this book that we haven't seen a ton of in this series. You know, when he makes the little, oh, you know, you're attached to my car, dude. But even he's getting beat up by these bears while she is freeing Carapace. And she's like, do you have Warsaw? And he just says, I'm keeping him occupied, if that's what you mean. It's just him getting beat up pretty badly.
Yeah, and he does lose the advantage for a moment because Ursa is able to get his giant bear hand around his helmet and throws it off of him. And then we hear that typical
Corvidae connection terminated.
Because the helmet's not on him anymore. And this is like that pivotal moment. It's like in Blade Runner, the end of Blade Runner, where Deckard and Roy Batty are at the top of the building in the rain. And it does not look good at first. It does not look so good. You've got Ursa and his two giant bears backing Rook up on the top of this precipice type of deal. And even gets all the way up to him. He's helmetless, and then he snaps his arm. That's just a terrible gross sound from Rob. Thanks, Rob. And, like, gets him across the face a couple of times. And then how the heck does he make it out of this? Because, he's not just beating him up physically, he's beating him up verbally, right?
I was just about to say, I love the whole trope of the villain is about to kill the hero, so he has to give him an entire speech about how he sucks. You lived for yourself. You almost succeeded in escape because of it, Rook. But the birds, they got into your head. It's just, shut up. Like, if you really gonna kill him, kill him.
And the beauty of it is that the villain is trying to plant doubt. Plant doubt and doubt and doubt. And the old Rook would have said, yep, you're right. Let me get in that rocket. But what does the new Rook do?
So he says, they left you to die. And we turn the page, and the first thing we see is, caw!
Yep.
And he looks up, and I mean, his eye is swollen. Dude's not looking too hot right now. And the birds all start attacking Ursa. And he's like, oh my gosh, even without the helmet, they are with me.
Yeah, because the thing that he was trying to lean into the most with the doubt was that animals have no loyalty. You serve the birds. No purpose now. You serve them no purpose now. They don't need you. And he doesn't even have to command them. And they come on a murder, not a flock, a murder, and just surround Ursa.
Tried to murder.
Well, yeah, they do. They knock him off of this. I guess they're fighting on top of the Ark.
Yeah.
They're on the vehicle. And so they knock him off of that. And it's this just sick splash page.
So good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's just him, like, standing up there. The lightning's, like, casting this eerie, cool shadow on him. They are with me. And this is great.
Yeah, it's awesome. So much detail, so much cool detail everywhere. Like, you can just look at tiny little things like the hand wrap on the guy's axe. Like, there's just so much in here that Jason does. Really neat. And so we just get this loud sound of the Bear Warden, quote unquote, smashing. And then what do we hear from the Bear Warden's helmet?
Ursus connection terminated.
Which is really a cool way of subtling say, he dead.
And then the bears are just like, bye.
You know what
bears.
I really like about that is that means that ultimately their instinct in this situation is to go get Worm and not try to eat that stupid human.
Yeah.
You know, like the Bear Warden was wrong. For all that.
Oh, absolutely.
And the next page is my absolute favorite part of this issue. And I know it's a little cheeky, but like it reminded me of, I don't know what, like, now we know the leader of the crows.
No, I think that's super cool because, like, obviously she has her head wolf. You know, his old buddy had Pumbaa. Now he has his main crow. And he actually looks happy. I feel like that's the only time I've seen him smile in 6 books. When he says, I'll call you Poe. And the crow's just sitting on his shoulder. And he does not have the helmet on. I do think that's pretty sweet. But
Mhm.
crows are highly intelligent animals. Or ravens? Are these ravens or crows?
They're either ravens, rooks, or crows. That's what we know. But yeah, then the leader, he's lost an eye, and he does say, I'm going to call you Poe. I'll call you Poe.
Mm-hmm.
As an obvious reference to Edgar Allan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's neat because that page is followed by a sunrise, which says to us, it's a dawn of a new day.
Yeah.
It's a dawn of a new chapter for the story, perhaps.
No rain.
We do learn, actually...
This was like really good information. So the next page where it's showing that the soldiers were fleeing and his bears fled first because they were untethered to him. So the first thing we learn about him is that his helmet is actually fused to his face. So part of his genetic modifications is that helmet is like his face, which is wild to me. I mean, we know this with Carapace, that's his face as well, which is why I think he is so ridiculously old. He's kind of like part machine, part human. They're like, well, how are we even going to know who he is? And I love the fact that we find out he arrived 4 months ago and he was sent by Better World. This whole time he's been working for the man, trying to get all of the technology and, I don't know, bring it back home?
Yeah. And then what happened when he actually got that helmet? Maybe that's what changed it. My question when it was fused to his face was, how does he eat? But maybe that's part of his genetic modifications. Maybe he's got like a patch.
Oh my gosh. That would be awful.
Yeah, it would be terrible.
Yeah. I mean, because you could technically get fed by some sort of tube feeding type situation. But ew.
Mm. And so we see a shift, and it is clear actually that Ursal is not dead. He is comatose or whatever, because in the inner monologue that then begins for Rook, he mentions that suddenly they have questions for Ursa when he wakes up, if he wakes up. So they, it's curious to see what will happen there. But then I get this positive realigning vibe. Like there'd be like exciting music in the background because Rook starts to reflect on things. And he says, we have a new mission to watch over those left behind, the people and the animals. We'll use the grid to locate the helmets, make sure they're in good hands, and draft the bearers into a new army of civil and environmental protection. The Wardens of Exodus.
This feels like significant because the Wardens of Exodus is going to be like a thing. They're going to be a group. They're going to do stuff together and it's going to be awesome.
They're going to be a team.
And I do really appreciate that she totally told him, like, hey, dude, I lied to you. My dad is alive. Which, again, 2 books ago, 3 books ago, he would have been like, you're dead to me. That's the one person who could have helped us with our situation and you lied to me. But they all just kind of moved past it.
The writing does it quickly for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she brings it up briefly. Rook doesn't even have a moment to respond. And she brings up the fact that her father's not dead, but he lost his mind. And Carapace is like, let's hope not, because your father can fix the engine. And they have found the Bloodhound, that's what they call him, on the grid.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do say, Ghost Machine fans, as we mentioned about Rook number 7 being in the northern biome with that sweet icy cover that I talked about.
North of the New Rockies.
Yeah, they're gonna...
In Canada, eh?
Well, I don't know if they have a new Canada and Exodus too, but apparently they have new Rockies.
Yeah.
And the implication there is obviously, we're going north, we're going to a snowy biome. Because Rook is like, so we start by heading there, Direwolf. And then we flip the page with this last thing, which is like the first cameo appearance of Bloodhound, the wild dog warden.
It's creepy. I think something so exciting about this universe is you can have very, very different backgrounds, landscapes. It doesn't have to all be in the jungle.
Yeah.
Or the city. Like, they're about to go in the cold. I'm very excited for those.
Yep, and he looks like he's in kind of a swampy area, but we do know that they are going into an icy deal. And I think that with the biomes and all that, that makes sense because of the terraforming that they would have, like a tropical and a swampy and a this and that. And to see how it all interacts as the world engine is failing could be interesting. So that's pretty sweet.
Very cool.
And then we do get a bio page for Ursa, which reiterates most of what we know already, but it is pretty cool to have it packaged in one place.
Yeah.
He does mention the origin of Ursa's unnatural size remains unknown, but as an agent of Better World, a master laboratory of manipulating the natural world, it's likely he's been enhanced in some twisted way.
They do even say mysteriously fused.
Yeah.
He is 7'10".
He's a big bear.
He's a big guy.
I just imagine him like having a case of smoothies and like a straw, because there's no way he maintains that. And he can't eat with the mask fused to his face, so there's got to be a solution. Like, he just must eat.
Maybe he's just like constantly getting fed. He's got like some tube and all that. See that tube around his shoulders? That's food.
Could be. Just feeds directly into his bloodstream.
It's just rice and chicken.
Yep. That's all it is. And just as one more reminder, because it's in the back of this book, it happened on Hyde Street. Devour, the cover is teased. And that came out the day this episode came out, which was October 30th. So you better be out there getting a copy and checking it out. So that's a wrap up for Rook Exodus. Definitely has me wanting to start arc number 2 in 2025. We do have a pretty awesome listener mail this time. I haven't told you about this one, Snoggle. I'll go ahead and read it, and then we'd love to hear your feedback about it. So this listener mail comes from Mentor Evan Ameti, who wrote, "So I gotta say, I've been getting more into listening to podcasts, and yours is at the top of the list. Loving the deep dives of every issue. Keep up the great work. I drive a city transit bus in New York City, and I have one earbud, and you're always on. So you now have a top fan from New York City."
That is so nice. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to think about somebody having the option of listening to really anything that they wanted to while they worked and choosing to hang out with us.
Yeah.
So it was super cool. I did want to shout out Mentor by saying that he attended New York Comic Con, and he does often go to Midtown Comics out there, and he was like, if you guys need any exclusives or anybody can't find what they need and they got it out here, just let me know and he'll help them out. So I thought that was really cool of him to do that too. But he actually sent that over as a direct message on Instagram, which we always welcome you all to do. And I got, it really made my day because as we've talked about a couple of times, we don't always have the time to do this. A lot of the time we have to do this after our little one is asleep because he's so busy and we're so busy. And every single time we get a message like this, literally making a new friend, which is the whole point in doing all of this. It makes doing it that much easier. It reminds us it's never exhausting because it's something creative that we get to do. And as a result, we get to share it with all of you awesome people. So thanks so much for this sweet message, Mentor. You rock. Thanks for supporting the show. And thanks for helping the community by letting us know about those exclusives. Do you have anything else for the episode, Snoggle?
No, I'm excited for the next arc in 2025, and I'm super excited for Devour. Yay!
Yep. And don't forget, the final order cutoff date for Hornsby Halo is this coming Monday, which is November 4th. We're also running a raffle on Instagram for 2 copies of the Jordan Noir Jams Fortress exclusive retailer variant of Hyde Street number 1. If you want to check out all of our other content, you can go to ghostmachinefans.com where you'll find our wiki, our forums, our Pinterest, our Twitter account as well. And go out there and find Jim Allegro's subreddit, Ghost Machine Fans on Reddit too, if you're one of those Reddit people. We want to support that new venture that Jim has put together.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.
podcast.